Fantastic. Okay, so we are live. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. So you are here with me, Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press, and Chris Major, who is one of our phantasmagorical editors. And we are here with you every single Wednesday between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you are watching this and it is not one of those days, it's a recording basically, this is not a big deal. You can just go ahead, put your questions in the comments section, because Chris and I always go back and check and look for any additional questions or comments so that we can address them in the subsequent session. So with that, originally we were going to have one of our dear authors who was recently announced, Tori Eldridge, join us so that we could talk about the Asian hate crimes that are occurring right now in the United States in an open fashion, just like we did around what it's like to be an African American or to be Black in the United States last time. Unfortunately, Tori is not able to join us. So my hope was that we would be able to encourage other individuals of Asian descent to join today's session, and we could have more of an open conversation that way. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, which I totally get. Especially with topics like this, it's very hard to tell if you're actually entering a safe environment, right?
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm just lucky that Chris was open, actually said last time, let's talk about this, right? Like, let's not just raise the question or raise the issue and then move on. I want to have an open dialogue. And I'm just thankful that, Chris, that you felt comfortable doing that, and that we were able to have such a really open conversation. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's an important conversation to have. And I like for more people to do it. I think typically folks have those kind of conversations in a more intimate setting where it's just them and people that they trust, like you said, like a safe space. So I don't know. Hopefully, it encouraged people to, even if they don't do it publicly, to kind of have those conversations in private.
Yeah, totally. I mean, part of the hesitancy, I'm sure, is that this is recorded, right?
Right.
And again, I 100% get it. I think a lot of times, and this is not an excuse for anybody, but I think a lot of times people say or do things it's because it's like a learned behavior, and they don't realize that what they're saying or doing is offensive. And so by not calling it out and not having a conversation, it only perpetuates the behavior.
Right.
That said, if you're on a live stream and you do or say something that's offensive and you don't know it's offensive, now it's recorded for posterity, right? Then it's kind of like, well, I don't want to risk that.
Right. Yeah, then it's, the internet never forgets.
Yeah, pretty much. So guys, I totally 100% get it. Not a problem. Some cool stuff going on. Some things that we can't talk about yet, we'll probably be able to talk about next week. So Chris and I have some stuff in the works. We also recently acquired a couple more books for 2022. I saw that we've started getting more submissions for Rise, which is amazing. So guys, keep sending us your stuff. We are super excited to read your work and to dive into it. Total side note. So if anybody is watching this and you happen to be free on Sunday, hold on. On Sunday, I am doing a public reading, Sunday, May 2nd, it starts at 3:30. Is that right?
Is that 3:30 Pacific time?
Yeah, I think that's right. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Totally my bad. Let's see. Anyway, believe it or not, my MFA was the FU MFA, which is Fairfield University, not the other FU.
Right.
Although, of course, that was part of the reason why I chose to go there, because I just thought that was hilarious. Just shows how juvenile I am. Let's see. Maybe it's at 4. Blah, blah, blah. Join us on May 2nd. Anyway, go on Facebook, look up FU MFA Poets and Writers Live. I'm completely honored to be one of the readers for the anniversary. I think it's the 1-year anniversary. Which is just pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah. And I'm going to be reading from a short story I wrote, which is a cross-genre piece that I hope you guys like. I've been practicing. So
yeah.
I don't do all the ums. I'm so disappointed in myself. I was on a podcast / radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to it. Man, I say a lot. Like, I was distracted from it.
Yeah, I think I do too. Or I don't know, like just now, like I'll have these pauses when I talk and stuff. But it's interesting when you go back and listen to like recordings of yourself. Because I go back and I listen to, when we do this, I go back and I listen to us. And sometimes you have these moments where it's like, oh crap, I wish I'd expanded on that, or or I had this pause again, or the or something like that. But it's fun sometimes to go back and listen. Sometimes it's painful though. So
I I think pauses are fine.
Okay.
But it's when I keep saying and I know why. It's because in my head, like, there's a certain word I'm looking for and it keeps like escaping my brain.
Yeah.
And then I know better. So yeah, I get frustrated when same thing, like I start expanding on a topic and then I realize like, oh, I didn't get to where I wanted to be. Like,
Yeah.
And I listen to it, I'm like, I wish I could go back, but no.
Right.
Oh well. Anyway, so yeah, guys, Sunday, I think it's at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, whatever. It doesn't. I don't know why anybody would want to hear me read for 20. They're like, you've got 25 minutes to read. I'm like, oh my God.
You're going to be reading for 25 minutes?
Right? Isn't that a long time?
Oh my goodness. That's like, I don't know, I would get the feeling like when you're in school and the teacher calls on you to read out loud in front of everybody and you're like, crap, I hope I don't,
That's as long as some network television shows.
It is.
Right? I was like, how long? Oh my God. Okay.
That's crazy.
So I've been practicing just so it doesn't sound awful. So
yeah. Plus, so you get your stamina up to do that for 25 minutes.
Right? I'm going to have to
breathing techniques and stuff.
Get some energy boosts.
Yeah.
Beforehand. So I don't sound dull.
Right. So yeah, definitely some coffee or something. Get you going, because that's as long as some network television shows.
It really is. A half-hour network television show is actually technically 22 minutes.
Wow.
So it's longer than a network.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which I'm honored. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a blessing to be given a platform for that long. But woo.
Yeah.
I just hope you guys don't get bored.
No, it's a good story. I mean, I think it'd be a good story. I'll check it out. I'll be there.
All right, cool. Yeah, be sure to put in the comments stuff like if you liked something or you're like, Lisa, that didn't make any sense.
Right. Okay.
Or whatever the case may be. So.
Right.
Yep. Let's see. Damn, that was really long. So we don't have, unless somebody has joined us and they are of Asian descent and wants to share their experiences. And if so, please just go ahead and pop it in the comments section, because what I'll do is I'll just repeat what you've typed. And really the intent is to share your stories and share your perspective. It's not for me to expound on my personal belief system about blah blah blah, right?
Right.
This is really intended to be an open forum, so that, again, like a safe space, so that you have an opportunity to share your experiences. So
Yeah, and as a minority, I myself, I know how, again, like you said, the safe space, and wondering if people are going to be open to hearing what you have to say, instead of combating it, or even asking questions that typically don't get asked and need to be asked. So yeah, I definitely get that aspect of it, or those kind of concerns.
and I think it's important, more important, that Chris, like, you get to ask questions as the minority,
Right.
right? Not that I sit here and pummel you with questions that, like, this is really called Lisa Shuts Up, and I just add here and
Yeah.
there colorful commentary. Like, when we talked last week, my focus was more on you and you sharing your stories, right?
Hmm.
And your perspective. And then if I knew of others that were similar or aligned, then I shared those. If that makes sense. It
Hmm.
wasn't intended to be, and I hope I didn't. It like, this is Lisa's perspective on this, and you all
Right.
have to listen to it, because that my perspective doesn't matter, right? I'm not the one experiencing the racial hate personally. So
Right. Right.
does that make sense?
It does. It does. So yeah, we definitely would love to have someone of Asian descent, so we can have that talk and kind of enlighten everybody, or in our community, on some of these things, and hopefully they can go off into their own kind of spheres of influence, and kind of take that knowledge with them.
Exactly. And if you're not comfortable with it, like, putting in the comments section, you guys can email me at either lkastner, KASTNER, at runningwildpress.com, or at runningwildeditor@gmail.com, and let me know that you would be open to guesting on this. Because if you do that, then Chris and I can have you on live, where you are verbally, like, you would be on like we are. And that way you'd have a chance to really share your personal experiences firsthand, instead of us, repeating it, which I actually think is more effective.
Right. 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 I agree.
Mm-hmm. So cool. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
No, I was thinking I was going out, and I keep forgetting that I'm vaccinated already. So I do think, and it's like I wanted to take advantage of the things I can do. Um, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I can walk outside without a mask and go places without a mask, but I still wear one when I go places. Uh, so I'm still, a year of kind of this behavior. I'm really interested to see um, how long after everybody, or the majority of us, have been vaccinated, before people start realizing, we don't have to distance anymore, because we've had a year of this, and now it's habit. I think it's only 21 days to make or break a habit, I think is what I was told once. And um uh it'd be interesting to see that after a year, how people respond. And when we stand in line at the grocery store, are we still going to be 6 feet from each other? Or, to be quite honest with you, I had a guy who was standing kind of close to me at the gas station, but it was like, he was as close as he would have been if we weren't in a pandemic.
Oh,
Um, and I just remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I'd be able to go back to that. Like, I like having my space like that. I like, having, it's like my personal space expanded to 6 feet in this year. And so, anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see how long it takes people to kind of go back to normalcy after all this is over.
well, it's funny. Every morning I work out and I go for a long walk, and I'm seeing more and more people without masks. But I forgot that now it's not mandated in certain situations for you to wear a mask if you're fully vaccinated.
Right.
Like, I think California just published that. I mean, I think now it's like you have to. I didn't read the article fully, but it's something like you have to be masked in, like, close quarters, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you're in a grocery store, like that kind of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily on the street, which makes sense.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does. It does. It makes sense.
if you're vaccinated. I mean, I'm half vaccinated, so.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I kept thinking that when I was half vaccinated, like, oh man, I'm almost there. I'm just gonna get my vaccine. But yeah, I got it, and my symptoms weren't that bad at all. I got Pfizer. And yeah, now, but I mean, it's still not the same because there's lots of people who aren't vaccinated. So they can't do things, so or not supposed to anyway. I know one guy caught COVID twice, because he didn't care about any quarantine or anything like that. He just went about his life.
Okay.
And yeah, right. And he ended up getting it twice. And I was like, geez, you think after the first time, that,
It's
and then you
over.
survived it, that you just probably sit down somewhere. And
Right.
but no, he caught it twice, which is nuts.
Now
And I
let
know
me.
one guy travels a whole lot.
Oh,
From high school, travels a lot for leisure, and I'm like, he travels as if we're not in a pandemic. And he ended up catching COVID too. Um, it's really interesting. It's really really interesting
it is
that
really
people would do
interesting.
that.
I go out. I go hiking maybe like once a month. I have like one or like two friends, but we go masked,
Hmm.
and we're really like my one friend works in her work environment. She has to test it once a week, and my
Oh,
other friend does like works from home anyway. So you know, and
yeah.
then uh, I have like two, no, one friend really that I go to dinner with.
Okay.
Mm, that's it.
Okay. Hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I went to a kind of a little dinner party thing not too long ago.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, it was nice. Man, I never been to a dinner party. I felt like Fraser Crane. There's a bunch of artists in the room, and Fraser is my comfort show. Like, if I'm like in a bad headspace, I'll turn Fraser on. It kind of turns my brain off, and I get to watch and laugh and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up, my mom had the box set DVDs of every season.
Oh
So
wow.
as kids, we used to just like pop. It was like a family thing. We'd pop it in and watch Frasier. So now, I mean, it's almost like I watch it. Not almost. I watch it every night when I'm going to bed.
Oh
But
fun.
we were there, man. The food was good. Stuffed chicken breasts and stuff. It was nice. It was nice. Definitely learned how to cook something new because I got there while he was cooking. But the conversation was pretty cool. But that's probably the biggest kind of environment I was in with people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were distanced when we were sitting around and stuff. We weren't all around like a dinner table. We were in the living room and stuff, and we were relatively distanced from each other. So that's it. But that's as far as how many people I've been around. That's about at one time. That's about it for me.
I haven't. No, I haven't really been around a group. I don't know. And every time we eat out, we're on the patio. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause you guys got nice weather out there. Alabama's weather is so it's I mean, especially in the spring, it's rainy and the sun comes out and then it gets cold and it's so humid too. Our weather is really crazy. Nothing about it is consistent here. So sitting outside like it may be nice when you go out there. And 2 seconds later there's rain and then it stops and I don't know, it's just really unpredictable is the word I was looking for.
Got it.
But I definitely like sitting outside. I like being outside in general, but
Mm-hmm.
sitting outside and eating and stuff, some friends, it's nice. It's always nice.
That's true. Um, I just remember I've gotten a lot of feedback, and thank you for this, guys. That we had an error on our website. That when you went to sign up to register to get updates and like a newsletter and everything, that it wouldn't work. So I actually fixed it. So if you are interested in getting our newsletter, just go to runningwildpress.com and scroll down on the main page and you'll see a sign up. If you actually do the sign up, we'll send you some free short stories from one of our older collections, and like let us know what you're interested in, what you want to find out about from us, what you want to hear about, all that kind of thing. If you've already registered, by the way, and you already get updates from us, you're going to get a survey in a little bit. One of our production managers is going to be sending out a survey because we want to know what you're most interested in. So what do you want to hear about? What do you care about in your life? It could be about publishing. It could be about writing. It could have nothing to do with nothing, right? But whatever it is that you are most curious about, you want information on, all that, because we want to make sure that you get what you want, right? You get what you need. So.
And also let us know what books you like to read, because that, as editors, going through and selecting this and that, it's nice to know what your community likes to read. But yeah, that's always good to know. So I would even consider letting us know that as well.
Yep, absolutely. Michelle Luke says, "Hi, it's me. Will you talk about the editing process once you sign an author? What happens next? How does it work?" So that's actually a great question. It's a little bit different for everybody. So typically, I can speak to what happens up until the editor starts working on it. And I can talk about my own editing process. And Chris, if you talk about yours, that would be great.
Okay.
So how it typically works is once we have the editor assigned to the piece, and we have the author and the editor under contract, at that point, I usually reach out to the editor and suggest that they get in touch with the author just to get them a feel for, hi, it's me, so that, you kind of start building your relationship. If it's me, if I'm the editor, I'll typically provide a timeline in terms of when I'm going to start editing the piece. And then as I'm going along, I'll give you touch points hey, I'm about halfway through, or I think I'll be done Friday. If there's a delay, I'll let you know, there's going to be a delay. I use Google Drive. And the reason I use Google Drive is because it's an easy way for me to track changes on the document and make comments on the document, and then just share it back to you, so you as the writer can see exactly what my feedback was. I then typically offer for you, once I'm done, I send you a link to it. I ask you to go through it, and I offer for us to have a little sit down so that you can ask me any questions that you have, or if you want me to talk through the different changes or comments, then we can do that together. And then once we've done that, I usually ask you how long you think it'll take for you to go through all the comments and address all the different feedback. Once you're done that, I then do a clean read through and look if there's anything else that may need to be adjusted. And then if there is, then we go through that same cycle. If there's not, then at that point, I let you know, hey, this is great. I ask you for back jacket copy, your biography, any acknowledgments. If you have a prologue or epilogue that you want to add, your author photo, and then any ideas that you have on cover design. And then at that point, it usually then goes to we have production managers, and the production managers are in charge of everything from helping you build your publicity plan to working with our cover designer, working with our interior cover or interior book designer, and working with all the other groups, and facilitates those conversations with you, the author, and those other basically departments or groups within Running Wild, and sees it to completion. We usually also do have a little chat about when we think the book should come out in terms of timing. And so most people don't know this, so I'll just go ahead and then I'm going to hand this over to Chris. When you write a book, if you are not self-publishing, if you are publishing through a press, there are certain constraints associated with getting the book out. And what I mean by that is, for you to get reviews, for you to be included in a distributor's catalog, and have the distributor's sales team talk about you and your work to the booksellers, the libraries, right? All the businesses that they work with. There is a specific timeline associated with that, where they need the completed manuscript, they need the cover, they need the book back jacket copy, they need all that. And it can be as far out as 9 to 12 months before the actual publication date. So even though you may feel like, hey, this is awesome, my book is done, woo, life is great, I think this could be coming out in 3 months. In theory, in terms of physically, yes, it could. But if you want to have the marketing that you need, you want the advertising you need, you want the sales force behind you, and 9 to 12 months might be an exaggeration. I'd say it's depending on timing, it's probably 6 to 9 months, something like that, after everything's done. So just keep that in mind, because it's so easy to sit there and say, I have forever. The reality is you don't really have, if you want to have that kind of backing to your title, you don't have forever. You actually have a lot less time than you think. Right. So, okay, Chris, you go.
Yeah, for me, I typically edit. I do line edits first. I know, Lisa, like you said, you go through and you do like a clean read through. I do line edits. So I kind of pay attention to grammar and things like that. So by the time that I get to my clean read through, there's no grammatical errors. I can turn off the track changes. So the comments aren't distracting, and that's when I get to read like a reader. And that's kind of when you read to find plot holes and things like that. But initially on the first reading, it's a line edits. And depending on the author and the length of the book, sometimes I'll send the editing back a couple of chapters at a time when I'm doing line edits, because I want it to. I find that at times it can expedite the process of getting the book completely edited. So while the writer is working on chapters 1 through 3, I could be working on chapters 3 through 6. And then kind of having the back and forth that way. And so, and I do that, like I said, depending on the length of the book and the content. Yeah, I try and do it in bits and things like that. And then I send it off to Lisa to get that vote of approval.
And which, by the way, the last book that you edited, I had one of our production managers, Alexis, is reading it, and she loves it so far. Just so you know.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
The other, actually, I could also speak to Ben White. So Ben White is another one of our amazing editors. His process is really interesting. It's closer to Chris's. So what Ben does is he also uses Google Docs, and he shares it immediately with the author, so that you are collaborating from moment one. So as Ben is editing and asking questions associated with the piece, the author can see it and respond to it in real time, which is really interesting. Like it's a nice way that you can have a cool like dialogue going on.
So, yeah. I have a friend. Like I said, I have a friend. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. When she's drafting, she and one of her friends will they'll call each other. Hey, let's hop on the Google Doc, and they'll be live on the Google Doc together. And she'll be writing or he'll be writing, and they'll make comments, and it's like that. Essentially, like they're having like I said, a conversation, back and forth. So, that's an interesting way to do it.
And especially if you already have a relationship, like you've already talked, so that as you're seeing the feedback, you guys kind of, because everybody has a different way to putting things, and so sometimes it's easy to misunderstand it unless you've kind of talked through it. So especially if you've had a chat and you kind of know each other's voice and your personalities and stuff, doing it that way is actually a really, really cool way, I think, of going through the editing process. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think it would be too. Because again, voice can get messages and voice can get kind of mixed up in text. And it's easy to kind of I don't know. There's like a music to somebody's voice that when you read them, you kind of, you know, you know how to talk to them. It's knowing your audience. You know, writing is life. It's like you're knowing your readers and your writers. And yeah, just kind of knowing, being able to anticipate, or not anticipate, but what do you call it? Geez, the word it escapes me. Just dark, having an understanding of what you're trying to say. It helps to um, kind of have that kind of conversation.
Michelle says that's what I pictured. Texts often sound crabby. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's helpful to, if you know the person and you know their personality, so that when you see it, you don't hear crabby, right? Like you hear their natural speaking voice, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
It's so easy, especially when you're editing or your work's being edited. It's very easy to assume the negative, even if it's not intended in a negative way.
Right.
So I don't know.
And we see that all the time in text messages and emails. You know, you be talking to somebody in text, and then you're like, wait a minute, I got to call this person because this doesn't. This came off this way. This comes off that way.
All right, I'm taking it this way. Let me go back and see, what they meant instead of what I heard. So,
right.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. I used to insist, why don't we sit down and have a talk, and I'll verbally walk through all of the edits beforehand. But then I started to realize some people are actually best if they don't, like, if I just send them or I send them a link to the Google Doc and they have a chance to walk through it themselves, they're totally fine. Like they're just like, this totally makes sense to me. I'm good. No need to talk through it. Let me go take care of it. I'm like, okay. And other people prefer having that conversation, and I'm good either way.
Either way, yeah, either way. And I think that may have to do something with the experience, because if you've had experience with an editor before, you kind of already know. Me personally, when I've dealt with editors, after the first couple times, I was okay with getting an attachment and nothing being in the subject box. I'm not subject, but the yeah, like, because I know what it is. I know the edits, the body. Yeah, and what you have to tell me will be in my comments, or I'll see it in the notes. Now I don't always do that, but I think the longer I've been writing, the more I found out, like, kind of knowing the process, and you know how it works. It's like there's not. So, it's not like that all the time, but sometimes, it's pretty straightforward. There really is no need to, you know, for a lot of communication that way, but sometimes there is. So I think, like, again, it depends on the writer and the editor, and like you said, I'm fine either way. Either way works.
Yep. Michelle says, I didn't know there was a team to help with publicity and marketing or anything. Well, it's more like every author is assigned a production manager, and that production manager has a ton of tools available to them to help you as an author kind of work through what your personal publicity is going to look like. So help you think through, like, where should we be submitting the book for reviews? Are there blogs that we should be targeting? Who are you friends with, or are you familiar with, that we could send them a copy of the book and see if they would be willing to talk about it online, right? Like some kind of influencer. What would be the most effective way for you to, like, do public appearances? So what I mean by that is, what themes are within your book that we can leverage for you to, so an example is, like, Suzanne Sample's memoir is about brain cancer. So we actually, walk through the publicity plan with Suzanne to help her target, like, she can actually go and talk to cancer survivor groups about her memoir, let them know it's available, because it's a comfort, oftentimes, to know that someone else has been through what they've been through. And she's done appearances at her alma maters. She's targeted, actually, press and publications that are more focused on cancer and cancer survival, like even the American Cancer Society, right? So those kinds of things. So it's helping you as the author think through a lot of that activity, and then partnering with us for those areas that where we can be of most benefit, which is again around like, you know, submitting the work for review or to concepts, contests
Right.
that may be appropriate for the piece, stuff like that. And then the distributor actually has a sales team, and that sales team, we provide very high level stuff like, you know, the synopsis, book cover, obviously digital copies of the book itself, and they then choose how much, you know, they then, you know, share that information when they actually do a catalog review, I believe quarterly. And so that's what I meant by publicity and marketing. So I hope that helps.
And that's one of the beautiful things about publishing traditionally, because those resources or tools are available. It is, you do give up kind of the complete control over, you know, some cases creatively or business wise, but that's just one of the, and there are bonuses to self publishing too. Don't get me wrong, but that's one of the things going with traditional publishing. It's why I choose traditional publishing, because there's certain tools and even knowledge. Lisa knows a whole lot of things I don't even know, and a lot of things that a lot of the writers don't know, because one, she's been doing this for a while, and two, she has all the tools and knows the resources and knows what those resources are and can apply them appropriately.
Well, and no, we actually have an advisory board of some amazing minds who came from traditional publishing, indie publishing, and also studio, like digital studios, and an incredible author who has been published across all, I'd say pretty much every genre you can think of, including film and TV. So we have a bevy of resources available to us to kind of help us make smart decisions. So,
right.
And then Michelle asks, yeah, that was my next question. If you submitted to contests, we do now know that if you email myself or one of our production managers and you're like, oh my God, I found this cool contest, can you submit it? We're actually going to let you know if it's a scam. So it's not just going to be a, hey, I want this. It'll be a, all right, we'll let you know if it's actually worth your time, because there are so many contests out there now.
Yeah.
And so many that I'm not sure why they exist. So it's just, we don't want you to waste your time. And it's honestly, it's heartbreaking. And I'm, you know, hey, I'm an author too, right? So I know the feeling when you submit to something and you think it's going to end up being some big hoo-ha that's going to be awesome. And then you find out it was really, I don't know, two guys in their garage in Virginia who just came up with this idea, and it got them $10 a submission. And now they both got like $10,000 in their back pockets because so many people fell for it. I don't want you to go through that. That's just not cool.
And I know there was one journal that was talked about in kind of like literary Twitter, where this journal or magazine was taking submissions and they were charging submission fees, and then they just closed shop.
Yeah.
Didn't give anybody their money back, because typically when you submit the stuff, they'll tell you this is non-refundable. And they just closed shop. And they had people's work tied up from submitting to other places, and at the end of it all, it never got published, and they're out 10, 15, 20, some cases, $30. So it's definitely a risk with that. And yeah, Michelle, you're right. It's to make money. Most contests, it is to make money. And I think, because I don't know if people really realize, I think you can go to poetsandwriters.org and find plenty of contests for your books. I think you'll find one, and a lot of contests are run by presses, and that's how they determine who they're going to publish. And a lot of times that's how they determine. That's where the advance you get comes from, those submission fees that they get from everybody else. But yeah, contests generally, work to raise money, because there's only so many people who can. There's only one winner, and or maybe multiple, but there's only so many people who can win or place. And there's far more people who submit than those who win or place in those contests.
Now, mind you, if it's like the Horror Writers Association, absolutely. If it's National Book Award, absolutely. If it's
Right.
the Pulitzer, yeah, sure, why not?
Right.
But you also don't assume that we're going to remember the deadlines for these, because we've typically got at least, I'd say, 15 or more books in play at a time. And every single one is typically in a different genre or cross genre or a different area. So when you're working with your production manager and working on that plan, and you see that there's a contest coming up, the deadline's coming up for your work, then just let us know, right? And we'll get on it. So
right.
Because sadly, every once in a while, there's been like one or two instances where someone assumed that I just knew, and it's not that I didn't know that that contest existed. It's that I didn't realize what the deadline was, and so it was totally my bad.
Yeah, you definitely got to keep track of those deadlines. So yeah, that's another thing too. That should be on somebody. If somebody has the intent to submit the contest, that should be on somebody's mind as they're working throughout the process, because you could very well miss that deadline. I know when I write, because I've submitted to a couple of contests before, and I've placed. But when I write, I typically pay attention to the calendar throughout the year, because certain things come up at a certain time. I think like fall, winter is a lot of things open up for contests, open up for submissions, and that's typically when, if I'm going to do contests, that's typically when I send them out. But that's because I know I pay attention to the calendar, and when I first started doing that, I didn't know the deadlines for them, so I had all this work that I wanted to submit the contest, and there weren't very many of them that my work would have qualified for anyway, that were still open for submissions. So it is important to keep track of those deadlines.
Oh yeah, 100%, absolutely. So these are great questions. Thank you, Michelle.
They are.
And if you have any other questions, please feel free, again, just go ahead and pop them in the comments section, and Chris and I are more than happy to answer them. And don't forget, if you are watching this and it is not on Wednesday between 4 and 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, not a big deal. Please just go ahead and pop your questions in the comments section, because Chris and I always go back and to read them and see what kind of questions that you may have. Cremo says, "Hey Lisa." Hey Cree, good to see you here. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, we've got some great books that are coming out quite shortly. We had one that actually just came out, and it was this one, American Cycle, which is actually a collection of narrative poems by Larry Beckett. So Larry Beckett is actually a pretty well-known songwriter and poet. So guys, if you love narrative poems, and which I do, then definitely pick this up.
And if you don't know what a narrative poem is, I would describe it as it's a story, but it's written in a way that you would find poetry to be read, if that makes any sense. So it's as if you're reading poetry that tells a story. And if anybody doesn't, if you need an example of that, I think Paradise Lost is like that. I think a lot of old Greek literature, like the Odyssey, that's a narrative poem.
That's right.
So yeah, if you just had any questions about what makes narrative, word escapes me now, a narrative poem, then that's what it is.
And if you want to check out, we actually published another narrative poem collection called the Recon Trilogy +1. That was by Benjamin White, who's also one of our editors. And so Ben, actually, how we found Ben was actually kind of how we found Chris, is that Ben had submitted to us early on, I think it was to either our first or second short story collection, a narrative poem that just actually to our novella collection that blew me away, and called The Cuban. If you love novellas, then you need to pick up that collection. I actually think it was our second novella collection. The Cuban is insanely good. It is crazy good. And we decided, Ben had several others, and I was like, dude, we need to make this a collection of your work. So pick that up. I cannot recommend that more emphatically. It is absolutely amazing. So Ben is so he is also again one of our editors, and we found him because he had submitted The Cuban, and he clearly had the same affinity for the type of writing that and stories that we love to publish, and so Ben has been one of our key editors ever since then. So cool.
That is cool.
It is cool. All right, we've got 13 minutes left, guys. So again, feel free, go ahead, pop your questions in the chat. We have another book that's coming out by Eric Gethers, and that one is, of course, the name. I was looking over here to see if I had a copy of it, but I don't have it next to me. Why does my brain do this?
Yeah, that thing. I know. I've done it a couple times here over here.
Whales Swim Naked. So Whales Swim Naked. Chris, you and I were talking about this before, about the gentleman who had gotten married and he thought he was like purely in love. And on the 1-year anniversary of his marriage, his wife was like, oh yeah, by the way, every time I come home or every time you leave for work, I am actually having affairs with multiple random men. And the guy was so distraught, he tried to kill himself by just eating too much and ate. And it's actually, the book was originally published in France, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Eric lives in France, and it was named one of the best books of the year, I believe, by Rolling Stone and a slew of other publications. And Eric had reached out to us and said, is this something that you would be interested in publishing? And I read it and went, yeah. So definitely check that out. It comes out next month. So.
And that's you think about it, that's a really painful way to go.
Right?
I was thinking about that the other day. I was at Chick-fil-A, and I was thinking to myself, like, geez, like, what if, because I've overeaten before, and I'm like, what if, it seems like a painful way to go. I feel like your stomach would like just explode. But.
I mean, I love food, don't get me wrong, but I don't. There's no way I'd want to go that way.
I couldn't. I couldn't. But I mean, it's funny. But I was thinking about how painful that had to be, because I've overeaten and sworn off of food, period, before. Of course, that's impossible. I can't go without food. But I've been like, geez, never again. I'm not eating anything ever again.
I go through. I mean, I go through periods. Sometimes I'll eat. When you're eating and you're just really enjoying it, and then all of a sudden you realize that, whoa, I ate much more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I hate that.
But I've done that before, but typically most times I eat like a rabbit. That's why I try and get small portions of stuff that I do that when I eat, because it's easy. I like get like something I know I'm not going to finish. Because I'll eat a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then kind of they say some people it's like somebody told me I eat to live, and some people live to eat. And how much they like food and the stuff. So I enjoy food. I'm a foodie. I like trying different types of food. I love snacking, but typically when I'm getting like nutritious stuff I need to like sustain myself, typically it's because I have to keep going. I can't die. But.
See, I'm a foodie and I love to eat, but I don't like being big. So
right.
I don't eat in the morning, which I know some people are like, I just have vitamins. And then at my lunch, I really just eat one meal a day. Yeah. But I have my other meal is a protein shake that I make it like ice cream.
Oh, nice.
Because I put it's a frozen banana and either a frozen like pear, apple, or strawberries, something like that in it. And then I put it in a blender, and then I use coconut whipped cream or almond milk whipped cream.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So then
That
that
sounds
way
good.
it's like a treat. You know, you don't feel deprived.
Yeah.
So, oh, Michelle does the same thing. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, it makes it that much. I mean, it makes it a lot better, I think. And then my dinner is like a meal, you know.
Yeah. I really eat probably about a real meal. I probably eat one around lunch. I know
Yeah.
some people that don't eat after a certain time at night though.
Yeah, me
I think I have a friend who's like after it's like 6 or 7, they don't eat anything at all until the next day because they watch their weight as well,
That's
and
smart.
they also said food kind of like that late kind of sits on their stomach in a way that's uncomfortable. So, but
I
yeah,
try not to eat after 8 o'clock.
after 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All I'm doing tonight is snacking most of the time, snacking on stuff.
Now
You know.
I usually have one snack, and I make sure it's less than 300 calories.
Okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
what? Like fruit or something?
It used to be like a protein bar, like when I was at in the office because I could just keep it in my desk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, it could be oatmeal, it could be popcorn, because it's like right there. Like I can actually make it at home. So.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah, oatmeal, popcorn. I don't know. I'm iffy on popcorn. I like it, but I can't eat it without I, there's never enough butter on it for me, so I have to like go get the sprinkle like seasoning and put
Oh
on it. Um, but it's cool, and it's so funny. Like I go to the movies, and the smell of the popcorn is what makes me go to concessions. But I never buy popcorn. I always buy I like Twizzlers, so I always go buy Twizzlers, um, or nachos. I'm a huge nacho fan.
really?
Yeah, but it's always the smell of the popcorn. As soon as you walk in, it's like I gotta go get to the
Now,
concessions.
when you say nachos, do you mean the kind of nachos that it's got the melted cheese on it,
Hmm.
like the nacho cheese?
Yeah,
Check
nacho
me out.
cheese. Give me some jalapenos on it. Ooh. Oh my, don't get me started. I'm gonna have to go get some when we get off here. I love it. And there's never enough cheese. I don't feel like there's ever enough cheese. No, I can't say that, but it sometimes feels that way. But the only problem, it's a delicate balance because too much cheese, and after it sits, your chips start to get soggy, and so next feels like you're eating cheesy mashed potatoes after a while. But um but yeah, I love nachos. I love them. I love them. I think um I can't eat them everywhere though. I can't eat everybody's nachos, so I can't eat all kinds of from different food places. And so yeah.
I just remembered this. Guys, if you have been looking for our books online, we have been in the middle. I think I talked about this before, switching distributors. So that switch is almost done. So if you go online and you're looking for our books, you're going to find that paperback's available, but you may not be able to see the ebook yet. I'm currently talking to our distributor about when the ebooks will be available. So we should have an update on that next week if they aren't already available by then. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. So we're working on it, but yay, the
Yeah.
paperback's available now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is good. That is
It,
good.
it
Um,
is.
and, and also just to tell you guys, we do go back and look at the comments. So if you miss us live, you can still drop your questions or comments in the comment section, and we can address it next week.
Absolutely. And if you have any topics too that you want us to cover, then just let us know, because we're more than happy to cover them. I've only seen one or two that I was like, no.
Right. Yeah, that's why it's almost sometimes you got to preface, ask us almost anything because people will, you know, come with all kinds of stuff that, again, like we said, want to put, want us to record, have it on the internet forever, talking about something that, we don't need to be talking about.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
anyway.
All right, we got 5 minutes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else big.
I think just looking through the submissions. I do want to say, guys, that if you haven't heard anything back, still in the running. We do have certain deadlines after we do accept manuscripts, and we only publish so many a year. So an acceptance could very well mean, yes, we'll publish it, but there'll be some time in between. Then it goes back to what Lisa was saying about the time constraints. And she gave Michelle an example that they could take 6 to 9 months from the moment the contract is signed to get the book out and published. So, and it's longer than that once the manuscript gets accepted, because then you have the whole editing process too. So, all that, but I think that's all I have on that aspect of it.
And to Chris's, to piggyback on the whole thing around submissions, so I get people will email me on occasion and asking like, when are you gonna send me an acceptance? Well, here's the deal. If you haven't heard from us, that actually means you're still in the running. So you should be really happy about that, because we only actually immediately respond to those stories that we're not accepting. If it is something and you haven't heard anything, it means that it's still in consideration. And our true constraint right now goes back to how many books we can actually publish in a year. So for both Rise and for Running Wild, we only publish between 15 and 20 books a year right now. And for Running Wild, we're actually pretty much full for this year and for 2022. Chris and I actually just had email conversation about this.
Yeah.
For Rise, we are still looking for stories for 2022. So definitely send us your work. The only exceptions to this are around our short story and novella collections. I think our short story collection, actually, now that I say this, for Running Wild, that one is done with submissions. The novella is actually still being accepted. And then please go to our submittable page to look at when we're taking submissions for the short story collection for Rise and the novella collection for Rise. The other thing to know, if you email me personally with a submission, I either won't respond to it, or I'm going to tell you to go to the submittable page, because I don't take submissions through my personal email or through my work email. The reason for that is it's going to get lost. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Right.
I took a rare day off on Friday night to Sunday night, or Friday night to Saturday night. I didn't check any email. I got almost 400 emails, guys. So, and that was just over a 24-hour period.
Right.
So when I say don't send submissions to my email, it's not because I don't love you. It's not because I don't want you to send it to us. It's because I don't want it to get lost in my email. So please, please, please send your submissions to runningwildpress.submittable.com.
Yes. Yes.
And then that way you'll know that it's actually going to be reviewed.
Right. That's crazy. That's a lot of emails. You think you send it and you wouldn't hear anything for a while, but you definitely hear something sooner on Submittable than you would an email. Anyway, right. 400 is a lot. They get 400 emails in one day. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I think I get about every day. I don't know, like 40, 50 emails a day, I think.
That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Mm-mm. Well, it says the person who gets 400. So.
I mean, yeah. And they're not all valid. I mean.
Right. All kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, anyway.
All right. Well, with that, we are at 5:00 Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are catching this and it is not Wednesday between 4 and 5 Pacific, or 7 and 8 Eastern, then go ahead, put your questions in the chat. We would love to hear from you. And we're wishing you all a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.
See you guys.